All right, so here's a short financial video. Haven't done one of those in a while, but because the YouTube algorithm favors other things, I've chosen to do other things instead. Goldman Sachs lost $1.2 billion in 2022, mostly because of Apple Card. Goldman Sachs Consumer Credit Division lost $1.2 billion in 9 months last year, and the losses were primarily related to Apple Card. Goldman's collection of businesses known as Platform Solutions lost over $1.2 billion in pre-tax losses in the first 9 months of 2022 and was driven mainly by loan loss provisions. It was mostly tied to the Apple Card, according to Business Consumer. Previously, the only financials Goldman had disclosed in its consumer business showed $1.3 billion in losses from the start through mid-2019. However, executives of Platform Solutions believe the consumer division may break even in 2025, although that target was initially by the end of 2022. Goldman spent a lot of money to help launch Apple Card and its other consumer services. A report from 2019 revealed the bank spent around $1.3 billion on its consumer services and reportedly spent roughly $350 to acquire every new Apple Card customer. That, I think, doesn't make very much sense. It's like, why would you spend $350 for every customer? That's weird. So I guess the assumption that they made was that these people were going to get their Apple Card, that they were going to go out and buy some high-priced Apple shit, maybe the iPhone 14 Pro or MacBook Pro or Mac Pro, because all of the prices on these computers have skyrocketed. But then again, so is everything else. So my guess is that they thought that they were going to be able to make it up over time in fees. The problem is every now and then you're going to run into somebody like me who pays absolutely no interest, because what I do is I pay my credit cards before the bill is due so that this way I can avoid interest altogether. When you run into people like me, you don't make money off of people like me. Yeah, you may earn in the back end because somebody like me is pushing your product and other people see me with my Apple Card or other people see me using iPhone to pay for everything, and they themselves may desire to get an Apple Card or an iPhone. But you're not going to make any money directly off of me because you're not going to get any interest. And on top of that, you're not going to get any late fees. And on top of that, you're not going to get any finance charges. So I guess I'm a special branch of customer. The bank, you got to understand, I've explained to you numerous times how to avoid paying interest on these goddamn credit cards. Now that interest on credit cards is higher than many people can remember it being, most people are trying to avoid credit cards where they can, or they're trying to pay down their debts as soon as they get their money back from tax returns. But the reality is, again, I'm the type of customer you're not going to get much money off of. The other people who don't pay their bills on time are subsidizing me. So that's just what it is. So anyway, it goes on to say, due to Apple Card benefits such as no fees and a competitive interest rate, which I don't believe for a second. My interest rate on my Apple Card, I believe, started at around 13%. Now, most of these department and store credit cards go up to about 28.9%. They can't go much higher than that because there's what's called a usury law. Usury law doesn't allow them to charge like close to 30% interest. I think it may be capped at 29. It may be capped at 30. So what they'll do is they'll go as high as 28.99 in some cases. I think it kind of depends on states. But the usury law is what keeps them from charging you more interest than 30% for the most part. But what Apple did was they launched this card, and keep in mind, they launched this card during a different time. When they launched the Apple Card, it was during 0% interest rates. It was during very, very low interest rates on cars and houses, but it was basically during 0% interest rates on credit cards. And the only time they could actually catch you is if you paid late or if you had finance charges and you kept revolving balances. But anyway, it says, but Goldman CEO David Solomon called its partnership with Apple the most successful credit launch ever, and noted that although its investment draws on the bank's return in the short term, it's critical to expanding its capabilities and competitive position. So here's the thing. and this is something that businesses typically do. They're willing to take a loss temporarily in order to secure future gains. So basically, in order to get you into the Apple ecosystem and in order to get you locked into actually owning and using Apple Card, they're willing to take temporary losses because they believe that they'll make this money up in the future. The issue I think that they're ultimately having is that the interest rates that they set are much, much lower than what the current climate is presenting, because as you can see, interest rates have gone up on credit cards. So imagine that your Apple Card and somebody has like $10,000 at a 13% interest rate, but interest rates have gone up over time, but those people are locked into the 13%, or they're paying 13% on that amount, but someone else might be paying, let's say, 20% interest. You're actually losing money. This is actually something that's happening to the banks right now. Every single mortgage, and I'm really proud to say that I convinced some of my family members to refinance to 3% or less during COVID. But every single loan that was refinanced down to 3% or lower is costing the banks a lot of money right now. Those loans are more secure. Those loans are an absolute asset for the homeowner because now they're living in their place at 3%, and anybody else who tries to buy in is going to have to buy it at 6 or 7. So the reality is the banks are losing money on that low interest paper. But, it is what it is. They played the game. And it turned out that the customers won, the consumers and the customers won. So, hey, that is what it is. So now we move on to Apple's new plan, I guess, to retake some of that glory from what I guess you could consider them losing. Because, see, Apple's not losing. It's Goldman Sachs that's losing. Apple is selling its products. Apple is making its money. Goldman Sachs is the one losing here. So now Apple has proposed something new. So let's get to that. Okay, so Apple has a new high-yield savings account, and it's 4.15% APY. So now they're saying Apple Card users can grow their daily cash rewards by automatically depositing their daily cash into a high-yield savings account from Goldman Sachs. Starting today, Apple Card users can choose to grow their daily cash rewards with a savings account from Goldman Sachs, which offers a high-yield APY of 4.15%, a rate that's more than 10 times the national average, with no fees, no minimum deposits, no minimum balance requirements. Users can easily set up and manage their savings account directly from Apple Card and Wallet. That's an app, by the way. Savings helps our users get even more value out of their favorite Apple Card benefit, which is daily cash, while providing them an easy way to save money every day, said Jennifer Bailey, Apple's vice president of Apple Pay and Apple Wallet. Our goal is to build tools that help users lead healthier financial lives, and building savings into Apple Card and Wallet enables them to spend, send, and save daily cash directly and seamlessly, all from one place. Once a savings account is set up, all future daily cash earned by the user will automatically be deposited to the account. The daily cash destination can also be changed at any time, and there's no limit on how much daily cash users can earn, which is basically because there's no limit on how much you can spend. If I want, what my Apple Card balance is right now, it's 0. But I think I've explained this in videos before. I use my Apple Card to purchase the warranties on my cars. Now, if you were to look at my Apple account right now, I have about $100 of daily cash. And right now, that daily cash has been earning no interest. So what they're proposing right now is that they get me to deposit my daily cash into this high-yield savings account. Now, for those of you who don't understand high-yield savings accounts, usually it's the online accounts that are going to give you the highest yield. So basically, online savings accounts typically do not have people working physically in a position. So this way they're able to save a lot of money. I'll talk a little bit about high yield savings accounts in a minute, but I just wanted to mention this to you because if you're an Apple iPhone user and you have Apple Card, which if you're an iPhone user, you really should have Apple Card, especially if you're a teenager who is 18 and you need to build your credit. What the problem is that you have to manage your money and you have to be disciplined. I have a cousin. I was explaining to him about building his credit because there's a couple of things you have to build. Number one, you've got to build your credit and you have to build your insurance profile. They don't really talk about this much, but it's like this. If you want to go buy a car, obviously on that car, you're going to have to pay car insurance. If you wait a long time to start building your insurance profile and you wait a long time to start building your credit, you're going to have the absolute worst rates when you want to go buy a car. Like, I'll never forget, when I got my first car, my parents were like, oh, are you sure that you should have bought this car? Because you didn't, I didn't ask them about it. I just went out and took my money and bought the car. And they were saying, oh, yeah, well, how much is the insurance and how much is it going to cost? And I was like, you know what? Listen, don't worry about all that. I'll handle it, right? And sure enough, many, many years later, 6 or 7 cars later, I've had what my first car was used, and there's no shame in my game, so I tell the story all the time. When I got out of college, my credit was shit. I owed Discover Bank $5,000. I was in default. Them motherfuckers sued me, and they came to my house. They put what is it called? They put a court order on my house and left it there, a serving summons, right? They said I owed $5,000 to Discover. I had horrible credit, partially because Discover would basically put me in collections. Now, this was 2004, maybe 2004. And I had shit credit. I was 500, 520, 530. That was like my low, middle, and high FICO score, right? And Discover sued my ass. And because they sued me, I was in collection, so my credit kept going down. So they put me in garnishment. Garnishment is where, by state law, they can take up to 10% of your money away from you every paycheck. So, yeah, Discover sued me. Now, fortunately, I'd started working. I was making $55,000 by the time I had started working. So my garnishment was paying right away to Discover. And then, because I'd gotten a scholarship to get my first master's degree, I actually took out a student loan, and I used that to help me pay off and consolidate my own credit card bills. Instead of going to get a consolidation loan, I actually used a student loan. And the beauty about that was because the student loan itself was deferred until after you graduated. Once I graduated, and by the way, I graduated 4.0, I have the transcript to prove it, I started paying down the loan that I had taken out, and I was able to pay that loan off many, many years early. I paid off my student loans 10 years early because the federal government, they wanted to put me on a 6.75% interest plan. And I did the loan calculator. I was like, wait a minute, that shit's going to take me 15 years to pay off. I was like, nah, fuck that. I got a second job and I started writing and I started doing YouTube. I took all that extra money and I was applying most of it to my student loans. I paid all of that shit off early. So if you're disciplined, you won't have a problem. My cousin, however, well, he's making money working a job, but he feels that he needs to build a goddamn fucking space program in his bedroom by going out and buying the highest rate electronics. He's got he's got a fast computer, he's got a fast graphics card, and I'm like, these things are costing you a lot of money. Had you taken that $2,000 that you spent on that graphic card and put it into NVIDIA stock, right now your $2,000 would be worth $4,000. But, kids don't think like that. They're just interested in buying shit and playing video games, and that's the problem. You put yourself deep into debt before you understand the system and work yourself out. That's the problem. So it is what it is. All right, so these are some of the best high-yield savings accounts for 2023. And for the most part, I'm looking at offers available in New York. However, depending upon what state you're in, you can look at different offers. So there's SoFi, SoFi is a 4% APY, minimum balance zero, zero minimum balance. Okay, there's CIT Bank, that's 4.75. The minimum balance to earn is none. Maximum balance is none. So you can put in as much money as you want. Actually, I should say with CIT Bank, the minimum is $5,000 and the max balance is none. They are rated an A. Capital One, which you don't see here, but I'm looking at a different screen. I'm looking at my computer screen. Capital One offers a 3.5%. Minimum to earn is zero. Max balance, zero. They earn an A as well. Then, as you can see, the Citizens Bank, which I happen to be in, Citizens Bank took over my old bank, Investors Bank Corp, and they offer a 4.25% with a minimum, 0.01 minimum. But this is an online savings account. So when you're putting your money on the internet, it's basically online only. This is not the bank itself. I have a problem with that. I want my money to be where I can get in my car, I can drive 4 or 5 minutes, and I'm at the bank. And if I want to, I can take all my money out or I can put more money in. Sometimes I like going to the bank. You know, they've made it so that you don't really have to go to the bank anymore. But sometimes I like driving to the bank and going to the bank and walking in there and seeing what they're offering and all that. Sometimes I just like doing that. It's just me. That's how I feel about it. They also have Upgrade, 4.5. So it's 4.56%, minimum $1,000. That's the balance you have to have. But the bottom line is this. If you're dealing with an online bank, they have less overhead fees. They don't have a branch. They don't have tellers. They don't have drive-up machines. They don't have drive-up ATM people. So they have like less overhead, so it's easier for them to pay you a higher interest rate. And right now, banks are scared. They're terrified that people might get the idea to take their money out of the bank. So ultimately, it's things like this that are the future of banking, where they want you to put your money with them, leave your money with them, and that's it. There are other online banks, like I'm looking at American Express. American Express has a high yield savings account for 3.75. The minimum to earn it is $1. There's also Western Alliance Bank, which is a 4.85%, and that's a minimum of $1. It's called Western Alliance Bank. I'm looking on my computer just to let you know. And basically those are the best. There's also one more. It's BMO. That's BMO Harris Bank. So BMO Harris is an APY of 4.3%, and it has a minimum of nothing. So you don't have to worry about minimum or maximum there. You can view the details. All you got to do is just type this is what you do. You just go on to Google and type high yield savings accounts 2023. And you'll automatically be put into the list that I'm looking at. But what you have to remember is I'm looking at it from a New Yorker point of view. And in your state, you may or may not have access, or you may or may not see what I'm looking at. So that's just that. But everybody should have a savings account. Everybody should have a checking account. And that's just how I feel about it. Now, there are some people who feel that, oh, yeah, we're going to the moon. We don't need checking and savings account. We're going to the moon. We're going to put our money in Ethereum. We're going to put our money in Bitcoin. Yeah, well, I don't know if y'all noticed this, but Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin have both lost a lot of money this week. They're down from like 30-something thousand to 27,000. Oh, don't worry about that. That's just a sale. Buy the dip, everybody. Buy the dip. Buy the dip. Buy the dip. That's what they say. No. I prefer to keep my money in high yield savings account, gold, and real estate. But my main investment is real estate. That's just what it is. Real estate, you can't go wrong if you own real estate. Ask Ben Mala about some motherfucking Bitcoin. Ben Mala is he has a net worth like $250 million thanks to real estate. Yeah, ask him about that shit. Now, granted, that doesn't mean that that's the only way to get rich, and that doesn't mean that that's the only way to secure wealth. It's just that real estate happens to be the best way to secure wealth over multiple generations. And, when I have children, I want you to just think about this. When my houses go to my children, they won't have to pay rent at all. My children will not have to pay rent. Here's a question. What about your children? Will your children have to pay rent? Probably. And that's the one. If I die and teach my kids nothing more, my bottom line to them is make sure you own your shit and never pay fucking rent. Own what you own. Own your stuff. Own your stuff. Never pay rent. And what else? Never pay interest if you can avoid it, And those would be my simple lessons, simple life lessons for them. And that's just it. So you should look into this. The Apple savings account for your phone, especially if you're a new person. If you're a teenager and you just started building your financial profile, you should look into it, especially if you own iPhone or iPad or something like that. You should definitely look into that. But definitely get yourself a savings account. And one thing I will say about these online savings accounts, if you get an online savings account with like a big name bank like Capital One, Citi, Chase, or something like that, there's less of a worry that you're going to have having your money stored like that. You should have a savings account that you can drive to. Just like I said a minute ago, I like to be able to drive to the bank. It takes me, if I want to get to Charles Schwab right now and I want to pull all of my money out of Charles Schwab is down the block. And when I say down the block, I mean it's about 4 miles due east. There's another Charles Schwab that's at Americana Manhasset. I can get to that real easy. But I like to be able to get right to the bank, put money in, take money out if I feel like it. As far as I'm concerned, you should always have at least one savings account that's hard for you to get to. And the reason why is because if it's hard or if it's inconvenient for you to get to, that means it's less likely that you're going to pull the money out of there. Because the savings account is exactly what it says. You're supposed to save money. What I'm saying is not spend your money the second that something expensive comes out that you want. It's like when I think back, the last thing I'm going to say, the first time I pulled out money to buy something relatively frivolous, my parents had saved up money for me in Republic National Bank. Now, this was back in like 1990s, right? I was getting 10% interest on the money. I rolled up to that bank myself. I went up to that bank. I took the bus and I got up to that bank, didn't tell my parents. I took my bank book, didn't tell them anything. I rolled right up to that bank and I pulled out, I think, about $250. And I went and bought a PlayStation 1. You remember the PlayStation 1. When it first came out, it was like $299 or something like that. But when it dropped down to like $199, I was like, I gotta have it. And I rolled right up to that bank, pulled my money out, went and bought a PlayStation. Now, was that a good thing to do? No, it wasn't a good thing to do. But the bottom line is, I'm just saying, this day and age, you're facing higher expenses and more expensive products. So if you are saving money, like for instance, like there's one of my bank accounts, and what I did was I told it to take money out of my paychecks. So like for instance, we just got paid on YouTube. We get paid every 21st from YouTube, right? And my YouTube account, as I've explained this before, I usually make between $2,000 and $3,000 every single month on YouTube. And that's not counting the free toys and shit that I've been reviewing that I get from China when they want me to review something. They give me like these free products, and usually a lot of them are very expensive. Like, for instance, you saw that triple screen monitor. That was a $400 monitor system. And then there was whatever it was they gave me last time. They usually give me like power chargers and stuff, and they want me to demonstrate video cameras. Those are expensive supplies, but I don't pay for them. They give it to me free. Thank you, Chinese government. But at any event, I take money out of each one of my paychecks and I deposit into a savings account in a credit union. And when I see the balance going up, that's good. It's a positive reinforcement for me to see the balance gradually going up. But If I wanted to, I could go right over there right now and pull money out and just buy some frivolous shit. I could buy a PlayStation or an Xbox or I don't know, something stupid, like some frivolous shit. But it means more to me to watch my money grow, you know? Because I tell you, I got 10 more years of this bullshit in this country, and I'm going to be a passport expat move. I'm going to be on a beach, retired, sitting on my ass. I have uncles. They sit on their ass collecting their pension checks. I got one uncle, his hobby is building cars. This guy gets the parts from Australia. He gets the parts from Europe, and he's building Ford cars. That's his hobby. He's spending all his goddamn money building Ford cars. I got another uncle, spends his money on home improvement. Nothing wrong with that necessarily. I got another uncle, retired, spends up his money, like on train sets and shit. Like he likes trains. He's got a big ass train set in his basement. Here's my thing. I'm going to be retired. I have no aspirations of working any longer in retirement. I'm going to be on a beach in a foreign country with a wife half my age serving me buko juice. That's my aspiration. A wife half my age. I turn around like it's the sun's out. I turn around, lay on my side. And I'm, hey, honey, could you get me that coconut oil? I want you to rub me down. Oh, yes. Okay, honey. I come rub you down. And then and I'm laying there on the beach, not a care in the world, drinking buko juice. I got a cup of buko juice in one hand, and I've got my wife half my age in the other. That's my retirement plan. That's it. That's it. I've done everything else I feel I need to do. I don't have, some people have bucket lists and shit. I've already traveled to the most beautiful, expensive fucking places in the world. The only other place I might consider is Tanzania, maybe Zanzibar. Maybe I might consider that. I've got an upcoming trip to Bora Bora. It's like I've been to Seychelles, I've been to Maldives, business class, Emirates and shit. It's like I've done all that. Like these people have shit like that on their bucket list. I've fucking done that shit already. Like some people have learned to fly planes on their bucket list. I've done that already. It's like I have no aspirations at this point. All I want is to be on a beach, sipping buko juice in one hand, and my wife half my age in the other. That's it. That's it. Now, you might not think that that's a very exciting retirement, but I'm not looking for a very exciting retirement. And that's that. So that's all I had to say. Manage your money wisely. Stop spending on stupid shit and manage your money better. Refuse to pay interest. Get yourself some property. Build your wealth. That's it. That's all.
If you are a single man with no children and you are earning $75,000 or more, you are now platinum. If you're making six figures or more, you are now diamond level. If you're making 55,000 to 60,000, you are gold. You are far more valuable than you have ever been. And here's the trick. You guys don't know how valuable you are. And that is why so many of my critics and detractors are angry at me, because I am waking men up to their true value. That's why they want me shut up. That's why they want me off this. They don't, because of the impact it's having upon right-thinking men and right-thinking women. It is making it more and more, it is making it less and less possible for men to get bad deals. That's why every day I walk out in this world, I get love from men. Every single day. Shout out to the two young dudes. Hadn't even hit puberty yet. No offense, but y'all still look young to me. They could barely get the words out. Those dudes had to be 14, 15. Those men are going to have a different outcome because they're not going to accept bad deals.